So immediately right off the bat, the first thing they've changed, they've increased the placement cost of the Gatling gun from 5,000 to 5,750. Bit unnecessary. Why not go, I don't know, why not go 6,000? Why 5,750? But you know, fair, you know, fair enough. Placement cost of the placement limit of the Gatling gun hasn't actually changed. It still remains at 1. I mean, it's quite hard to... I don't think most people will be trying to have 2 anyway, even if they could have 2. So, the Gatling gun. Its damage at level 0 has been nerfed from 6 to 5. Its ammo remains the same at 50. Its fire rate remains the same at 0.15. Its reload time remains the same at 2.5. Range, same at 25. The angle has changed. It's no longer 45. It used to be slightly bigger than this, the cone size. It's now only 30. And you can see that this is a very, very small range size in normal mode. So basically, I think, unless you place it like even here, I mean, even here, the cone size for this is basically unusable. The Gatling gun has basically become unusable for non-FPS mode. Like in FPS mode, it's still fine-ish. I mean, minus the DPS nerf, but you know, I mean, do bear in mind that in FPS mode, you do also get 3 max hits, so it can penetrate a load of enemies. So it's not too bad of a nerf in FPS mode. Doesn't seem like the recoil's changed. Max hits hasn't changed, so its DPS has been nerfed from 28.85 to 24.04, and its cost efficiency has changed from 173, which was quite good before, to 229.18, which is less so good. In fact, that's pretty poor for a tower like this, for a tower that's like, it's level 200, I think? Or level 175, I genuinely forgot. So yes, this level, decidedly a nerf. It may not be that much of a big nerf, but it's a nerf nevertheless, especially in non-FPS mode. 30, the angle of 30 is just too small, I think. Unless it's like completely straight down the middle of a straight line path, it's just too small because you're not really hitting. Like here in this with this placement, I mean, obviously I need to place it better, but even here, you only get in natural placement here. It's barely anything. As for level 1, the total, the upgrade cost hasn't changed, but obviously with the change at level 0, the total cost is increased by $750. Damage is actually back to 8, so there's no damage nerf here. But what there is still a rate. The cone size for this is still reduced from 45 to 30. But other than that, everything's the same. In fact, it has the same DPS as before. The only problem is the cone size is basically still unusable at 30. You're barely hitting anything. Like here. Like, yeah, you get a decent chunk, but this is like slightly bigger. This is like this is the shotgunner, right? The shotgunner that I conventionally call a short-range tower. Still, it covers more path than the Gatling gun could possibly feasibly do, unless somehow all the paths were designed for it. But at least it can hit max levels in FPS mode. Basically, this tower, at the low levels at least, has become a tower that you can only use on FPS mode. Otherwise, you're kind of screwed. I'm sure you can buff it with like the command and the DJ booth, but otherwise, no. So therefore, its cost efficiency at this level has increased from 2.8, sorry, 208 to 227.51. Do bear in mind that a higher cost efficiency is worse. Now, as for level 2, it costs 7,250, where previously it was 8,250. So actually a decrease in price. So actually, I think overall, the Gatling gun is now 250 cheaper. The Gatling gun has actually decreased in damage from 12 to 10. The ammo remains the same. The fire rate remains the same. The reload time remains the same. The range remains the same at 30. However, the angle is now 35 instead of 45. And it still gets plus 50 ammo at this level too. So, you know, it's not the biggest nerf in the world. Its DPS has only decreased from 67.42 to 56.18. It's 11 decrease, and its cost efficiency has changed from 241 to 284. Obviously not the best, and we're approaching territory that's not good. But it's I don't know, again, it's a tower that you can't really use in non-FPS mode now. Again, cost efficiency of more than 200 at this stage is pretty bad. For a tower that costs 1,600. I mean, it is cheaper, yes. 250 cheaper. Meanwhile, for level 3, the cost remains the same at 17,500. However, at this level, the damage has been nerfed from 18 to 14. The fire rate has increased from 0.12 to 0.13, so that's a nerf. The angle at this level has decreased from 60 to 240. The spread apparently remains the same. So does the recoil, apparently. And so does max hits. Max hits actually hasn't been affected at all. So at this level, it's mainly a damage nerf. And, well, I mean, also a range nerf at the non-FPS mode. I mean, yeah, the angle's decreased to 40, which is still lower than what the angle was back in before this update. I mean, it's not too effective now. It's just you easily see it with the placement of the turret, the Gatling gun, sorry, that it's only suited if you place it further away from the action. So here would have been a better spot for the Gatling gun now in natural mode compared to here, whereas previously the range would have covered at least here. It would have been 20 degrees larger, so about 10 degrees is about here-ish. It would cover this entire spot here, and now it just doesn't. Therefore, the DPS, wait for this, decreased from 130 to 94.59. That is a massive decrease. Originally, the cost efficiency was 258, so actually better than the previous level. Now it's worse than the previous level, and worse by a substantial margin. Now it's now 354. That's not quite so good. Not good. No bueno. As for level 4, the upgrade cost remains the same, but the total cost obviously is decreased from 250 from the level 2 decrease. At this level, the damage, wait for it, has decreased from 28 to 20. That's quite a substantial nerf, I can't lie. The fire rate is actually now the same as it was previously, 0.09, or sorry, yeah, 0.09. The angle has decreased from 60 to 45. A 15 decrease, you'll see later, it isn't so bad. It's like 7.5 either side. Yeah, it's bad in the context of the damage nerf as well, but it's fairly substantial, and also the DJ booth exists. I'd imagine the DJ booth does the DJ booth increases range, not necessarily the angle, but I imagine with a larger range it doesn't really work like that. That's not how it works. The larger range only really works if you place the Gatling gun further back. So in natural mode, it's still quite bad. I'm sorry to report on this, but it's still quite bad unless you place it in a spot where it's away from other towers. Like, you have to tactically think more about where you place the Gatling gun. Anyways, you better get ready for this. The DPS for the Gatling gun has been nerfed from 259 to 185. The cost efficiency has therefore decreased, well, increased, but that's a nerf, from 265, which was okay, it's above, but for the price of it, 68,500 or 68,750 as it was back then. 250 cost efficiency, quite good. However, now it's 369. It's over 350. That's not really that brilliant. Context, even the accelerator, well, I mean, the accelerator that 51,950, but at max level, its cost efficiency is still 183. Meanwhile, for the engineer, it's about 133. So you can see the equivalent cost efficiency is 3 accelerators or 3 engineers for a Gatling gun. The Gatling gun is 3 times weaker in terms of cost efficiency compared to the engineer and the accelerator are for the similar price. Now, this does imply that if cost is tight, and you don't have the GDP of Botswana to spend, unfortunately, it does seem like the Gatling gun isn't as great of a tower. Now, do bearing in mind that being 3 times worse obviously implies, because in FPS mode you can hit 3 enemies, it implies that to get as good as 1 engineer or 1 accelerator in terms of cost efficiency, you need to be in FPS mode. You have to always constantly be in FPS mode for it to be as good as a accelerator or as good as a engineer. And that's why people have said that the engineer and the accelerator are now better towers than this. It's not really the case. They have their separate niches, even though they're endgame towers, yes. They have separate niches. The engineer and the accelerator are more suited for other enemies as well, whereas this is more boss shredding and limited penetration. But it does mean it's not as powerful as before, and yes, it has been nerfed. Meanwhile, for level 5, again, no upgrade cost increase or decrease. Still a $250 discount, which doesn't sound too bad. I mean, that's not substantial enough at this level anyway. But it's damage, you ready for this? Decreased from 55 to 38. Ammo remains the same at 400. Fire rate remains the same. Reload time remains the same. Range remains the same. The angle, get ready for this, decreases from 75 to 50. A 25 decrease in angle. You can see this. It used to be much larger. Now it's not. It's piddly. It used to reach all the way around like here, for example. Now it's not much more than... Is it even bigger than the... I mean, the shotgunner... Barely. But this is the Gatling gun. Now, at this level, this therefore means the DPS has decreased from 486 to 336. And cost efficiency has decreased from 264 to 382. Again, it seems as if the Gatling gun is getting, in terms of cost efficiency, getting worse and worse as each upgrade occurs, which is different to the previously where it's just middling at about 260-ish. And again, it seems as if the developers are accounting for the fact that FPS mode now exists and is substantially better than natural mode. But I mean, even then, people don't realize that the Gatling gun has penetration, and even then, you're getting a cost efficiency that's still as similar as, say, an engineer. And that's why people are saying that the engineer and accelerator are now better towers. Not necessarily. As an individual tower, this is still better in terms of raw DPS. Like, no other wow. The pursuit rework has actually just happened, so actually, it actually might be. Hold on. Okay, no. At max level, the DPS, the top path for the pursuit is 298.51 for DPS, while for the Gatling gun, it is 382. Do bear in mind, though, that the Gatling gun costs $128,000. The pursuit costs half that for not even half of its DPS. Then for level 6, max level, the damage nerfed from 100 to 65. Ammo remains the same, fire rate remains the same, reload time remains the same, range remains the same. The angle is where it's changed. 75 to 60. To be fair, 60's alright. I mean, you can see in natural mode, it doesn't cover everything, but it's still quite substantial if you place it further back. The optimal spot would be here. Yeah, it's fine. I don't really mind the angle decrease. 75 was quite large. That's nearly a right angle. That's nearly an entire square worth. You're only 15 degrees away from a square. And everything else remains the same. However, this does mean, in terms of DPS, it's decreased from 925. That includes the fire rate bug. It should be about 1,000-ish without it, but that's fine. Like 75 in terms of 1,000, that's not too bad. I mean, 7.5% decrease, yeah. But now it's only 601. Cost efficiency has increased from 247 to 404. 404, error 404. Yeah, this is a tower which has been nerfed quite a bit. Now, at max level, I think it is more usable. It is usable, at least, in natural mode. So once there is only the molten boss left, you can probably get out of FPS mode and you'll be fine-ish. But as you can see, I'm not actually shredding the molten boss as fast as I would be previously. And you'll see that I'm dangerously approaching the reload, which I've never had to do for the molten boss. Normally, for the Gatling gun against the molten boss, you've always been able to like nearly defeat it in terms of without having to reload. But now, you actually have to reload. In fact, you probably have to reload more than once. I'm not saying it's not a bad tower by any means. People are saying it's like the worst tower in the game. No, it's not obviously not the worst tower in the game. People are just being semantic about it. But it's not absolute brain dead the best tower in the game. I've heard from Shane that you've been able to solo fallen mode with just the Gatling gun. Now, obviously, developers don't want that. They want some challenges without having to ban the Gatling gun in the first place. Because if they had to, because they've had to ban the Gatling gun in events before because it was just too OP. Now, I suppose maybe for future events they will allow the Gatling gun, given that there's more of a emphasis on FPS mode now and your aim rather than just naturally placing it down and you being able to do everything. But still, it's been a massive nerf and like a 40% decrease in DPS. Take that, it's nearly a 40% decrease. That is quite something. For a tower that costs, what, 228? Yeah, oh yeah, bear in mind that at max level, its cost has increased from 100,000 to 115,000. I mean, barely anything, but it's still a nerf of some kind. But yes, the Gatling gun has been nerfed by about 30-ish%. Probably 40% in the title. But yeah, it's not... I'm gonna say it's a bad tower because previously it was like so far beyond like one of the best towers in the game that it was obviously the best tower in the game. Now it's, at least it has some restrictions, and I kind of understand it. But as a person who doesn't actually actively play the game as much, I just place down towers and just not think about it. And if I lose, I lose. I don't think I'll use the Gatling gun as much anymore. That's the thing. It's not that good in natural mode. And yeah, disappointing. Disappointing. What do you think?